On episode 80 of Attack on Titan, we get to see the background story of Ymir Fritz, a slave who was the first person to ever access the power of the Titans after that she fell accidentally into a lake and merged together with a mysterious sea creature. During this flashback we see the ancient times of Eldians and Marleyans that seem to resemble some of the ancient empires of our world. So if you want to know more about the inspiration behind these two, be sure to keep watching this video. In our world, Rome was one of the biggest empires of mankind. Rome conquered many other territories during its greater extent, but they were unable to conquer Germania. If we see the equipment of the Roman army, specifically the one of the Roman legionaries, we can see that the similitudes with the ancient Marleyan soldiers are pretty obvious. Also, Mappa changed a bit the armor of some soldiers during the anime, that makes them resemble a lot to the grip hoplites due to the spears and the body armor. So back to Rome and Germania, the conflict between them led to one of the worst battles of Roman history, the defeat of 3 complete Roman legions commanded by General Publius King Tilius, that were annihilated by the Germanic tribes, commanded by the famous chieftain Arminius. That sounds pretty similar to Armin. Arminius was a Cherusci, a Germanic tribe that inhabited the northwest region of Germany, and if we investigate more about it, we can see that their war equipment and weapons were similar to the ones that the Eldians wore during the last episode. And overall, in general, the Germanic tribes use very similar equipment to the one that we saw that the Eldians wore in the past. Now, talking about the Germanic culture of those days, slavery was very common among the early Germanic people. Slaves used to be captured during war and used to do domestic labor or farm work inside many tribes. Another fact about slavery in the Germanic tribes is that the masters had the power of life and death over their slaves, something that we could see when Ymir was released, but to be chased by soldiers firing arrows at her to execute her. And it was also very common that female slaves that were attractive end up becoming concubines for the leaders of the tribes. Does this kind of behavior reminds you of something? Yeah, exactly. Fritz did the same to Ymir when he offered her to bear his children. So these Germanic tribes were the only one to defeat Rome. They massacred Rome in the Teutoburg Forest battle. They annihilated every single Roman attempt to advance into their territory. And in the 4th century AD, most of the Germanic tribes, like the Goths, Burgundians, Franks and Vandals, were the ones who invaded the Western Roman Empire and caused its final fall. In Attack on Titan, also the Marleyan Empire fell due to the attack of the Eldians, which resembled the Germanic tribes' final attack against Rome, who were able to surpass and finally defeat the power of Rome. Marley ended up surrendering just as Rome during the 453 AD, but in Attack on Titan things were worse, since the Marleyans had to face the overpowered strength of Ymir as the founder Titan, which led to an almost instant defeat against the power of the Titans. If we dive even deeper into the culture of the Germanic tribes, we gotta mention the Norse mythology, that it's one that the German tribes used to worship back then, and Attack on Titan has plenty of references to the Norse mythology. As an example, one of the most common theories of the Attack on Titan fandom is that the tree, or the coordinate, was inspired by Yggdrasil, the Ymir sacred tree that supports the whole Norse universe. Another very interesting inspiration behind Norse mythology, and that was also explained in the last episode, is the origin of the power of the Titans that came from Ymir. In Norse mythology, Ymir was the first giant that literally created a race of giants that were known as the Jotnar. Also, the world in that myth was made from parts of the body of Ymir, something that has a similar approach in Shingeki, where the power of the Titans was originally inherited from Ymir's body, making the body of what Ymir very important to their own worlds. Another curious fact about Ymir is that in some old Norse poems, the name Ymir is written as Aurgermil, which means sand screamer. The sand part in the name makes me think about the relationship of Ymir Fritz with the sand, since also Pats, it's a place full of sand, and sand is the material that she uses to build the Titans' bodies, and screamer because the scream of the founder Titan, you know that it's really an iconic moment of the whole story and a very important skill inside the world of Attack on Titan. And there's so many references, like the walls that were built from the Titan's body, as the wall of Asgard that was built by an unnamed giant to protect the gods from other giants, the Utgard that was a stronghold of the giants, where lived Utgard the Lucky, a giant covered in fur that a lot of people say that it was the inspiration behind the beast Titan. And in Attack on Titan there's also a battle that occurs inside Utgard Castle. So now, finishing talking about the lore, let's consider how the Germanic tribes evolved into the actual Germans after over 1000 years. We can compare the same evolution from ancient Eldians into the actual Eldians due to their last names, since most of them have last names that have German origins, just that Eren's last name, Jäger. Other examples could be Kirstein, Braun, Leonhard, Wagner, and more. This is why in the actual timeline of Attack on Titan, we can see so many similitudes of Marley and Eldia with the Germany of the 20th century that has a culture that uses the same kind of technology, similar weapons. By the way, if you want to know more about the weapons, be sure to check my old video comparing all the weapons of Attack on Titan with the weapons of World War II and World War I. I will leave a card upside. So all these similarities with different cultures show us how Isayama based his world in our world, and it worked out pretty well, don't you think? I mean, he literally turned our world map upside down to create the world map of Attack on Titan, so he really knew what he was doing there, and he executed perfectly. So this is it, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and as I always say, thank you and see you soon.